I'm in the military, and I've been sent to investigate strange occurrences on a base in New Mexico. Part 2. Written by DonquixoteRosey. Hey guys, I've decided to do a follow-up since my last story got a lot of attention. I didn't think so many people would be into stuff like this. I've noticed that people on here share their experiences with creatures as well, and that always makes me think to myself, how are you still alive? But you didn't come to hear about that. Since you guys liked the last post so much, I've decided to read 2 files from my old assignments. I've got to be quick though. I'm scheduled to go and meet with Chaska tonight at the smoke pit. He didn't tell me what he wanted, but he didn't want anybody to know. Just wanted it to be me and him. Anyway, the first report I'll recount to you is an interview with a Marine whose whole squad fell victim to an attack by an unidentified creature. For your safety, I'm gonna leave out the location. We don't need any more casualties, nor do we want people investigating the matter for themselves. On November 17th, 2020, Lance Corporal Redacted was found outside the gates of his base collapsed. When examined, the Lance Corporal was dehydrated, had severe bruising, and was unresponsive. The patient was rushed to an on-base clinic where the patient was revived and all of his severe wounds were treated. The patient was then escorted to the briefing room where he was interviewed by Captain Redacted. The interview went as such. The captain: "Good morning, Corporal. I'm heading the investigation, and we want to investigate what happened to you and your squad so the commander of the base can act appropriately on the matter. So please tell me everything that happened, and please do not leave out a single detail. Everything you say can help us." The Lance Corporal: "Yes, sir. We arrived at Camp Redacted at 13:30 after a 6-mile hike. We were tired, so we set up camp 4 miles away from the mouth of a cave. We didn't know it then, but the locals call this cave Hairy Man's Cave. Anyway, many locals refused to go near it. Everyone settled down for the night, everyone but me. I was on guard duty, so I had to guard the perimeter of the base. Everything was going fine until in the distance I saw something that appeared to be a man, but it didn't really quite fit the definition, you know? It was tall with its head near touching the lowest branch of a tree. It was covered in shaggy, what I assumed to be black hair, and it had eyes that glowed in the night. Anyway, I comforted my nerves by reassuring myself that it was nothing, just a little sleep deprivation and nothing but my imagination. Just like as a kid I had found nothing when I checked under the bed for the monsters, and how I had discovered the scratching beast outside my bedroom were little more than branches from an old tree. I was relieved of duty at midnight, and I wondered if I should tell my replacement about the thing that I saw, but I didn't due to not wanting to look like a maniac. I returned to my tent, and as I closed my eyes and curled up to try and get some sleep, and some of the chill of the night air, I kept telling myself that the thing I saw couldn't have been real, that the idea of a hairy man just didn't make sense enough to manifest itself into reality. And then it happened. The guard could be heard yelling at something at the mouth of the cave. "Halt, identify yourself." I peeked out the slit in my tent, and it was the same creature I had seen earlier. It was standing in the front of the cave. Then in the blink of an eye, it ran out from the entrance of the cave. It mauled the poor guard to death, ripping all his limbs off effortlessly. It then saw me peeking through my tent and smashed in with such force that it tore the tent apart. Terrified, I tried to get to my feet, but I was powerless. The tent had collapsed around me and the figure beat down on me repeatedly. The heavy blows eventually knocked me unconscious. I woke up and I found myself lying in a dark cave. There was a large figure sitting opposite of me, and it watched me with unblinking eyes that burned in the darkness. Frozen in terror, I stared at the figure for a few minutes. There was the stench of rotten meat. I already knew that some of those smells belonged to the dead bodies of my fallen brothers, and it began to make me feel sick, and I felt pain across my entire body. The figure then flashed a grotesque smile, showing iron-like teeth that were jagged and continually ground against each other, making a horrible sound in the process. The figure then proceeded to stand up, showing horribly long arms that began to drag across the ground as it came forward. It had large feet with toes that were gnarled and broken. There were more toes than an ordinary man. I didn't have long to think about this before a large hand reached over and grabbed me. It tossed me over its shoulder, and I kicked and shouted and struggled, but the figure didn't even flinch. It carried me over its shoulder and out of the cave. I fought for what seemed like hours as that hairy creature trod down a worn path in the woods nearby. Eventually, it tossed me to the ground and stood over me. Covered in mud and bruised and terrified, I scrambled to my feet and I ran down the path, not daring to look back as I fled the area. Anyway, I stumbled my way back to the gate and then collapsed. I guess that's when the guards found me. That's the end of that report. The second report comes from Redacted. This is an interview I did personally. It was an account from an 8-year-old little girl. Her family was on a camping trip near the base when she and her brother went to go play in a forest. The family grew worried after some time had passed, and right when they were about to call it quits and send rangers, she came back. But her brother didn't. She was being questioned by rangers when we stepped in and took her to get more details. The interview went as such. Me. Hello, Annie. How's your day been going today? Hello, mister. My day was going good. So, Annie, I'm here today to ask you what happened to your brother. We need to know now so that we can find him and bring him back to you and your family. Do you think that you can help me with that? I asked her. She looked at the ground. The smile she had had drained from her face. You're not gonna find him. He lost the game and the woman won't let him go, she said. What woman? I asked her. He went with this woman with this scary face. We were playing hide and seek when the woman with the funny face said that she wanted to play. She said this like it was the most normal thing in the world. I thought that she may have had some sort of emotional trauma, but she wasn't showing any symptoms. Annie, when you say funny face, how do you mean funny? I asked. Well, her face looked like a barn owl on a woman's face. She was tall and slender, and she even had feathers on her arms. She could even fly and offered us a ride. Okay, so what happened when you started playing with her? I asked her again. Well, she said she would hide and we would need to find her. We walked into the woods and she jumped down from a branch on a tree and said, "Peekaboo," and then started flying after us, saying that she was going to eat us. We started to cry because she scared us, but then she said that she was only joking. She promised, crossed her hearts, and hoped to die. So we started playing again. Okay, then what happened, Annie? Well, she said that it was our turn to hide and that she would give us 100 seconds. Then she would come to find us. We didn't know where we were now, so we just ran into the trees. I hid behind a rock, but it wasn't big enough for the two of us, so my brother went the other way. Then I heard the woman say, "Ready or not, here I come." "Okay, what happened after that?" I asked. She continued, "I came back and I talked with the men with the funny tan hats. Then my parents were there and they were really glad to see me." "Annie, why did you come back but your brother didn't?" I asked. She just answered, "Because she didn't find me." Annie's eyes went from focusing on me to focusing on the window. Then they grew big and she gasped. "Annie, what's wrong?" I asked. "Nothing. It's just that I think I've said too much. Can I go home now?" Her mother was called and Annie was sent home and thanked for her cooperation. 48 hours later, she was reported missing. The investigators said that her bedroom window was smashed from the outside using a big rock. The dogs couldn't find her scent, and all they had were irregularly sized feathers on the rooftop and large owl pellets from behind the house, which contained clothes that were last seen on her brother. Every occupant on that base has been moved, and the base was shut down. That area has been quarantined. The people living in the area say that in the dead of night, they can hear the flapping of wings over their houses, and in the morning, they find large owl feathers. Anyway, that's all I've got for now. I've got to go meet Chashka at the smoke pit. I'll let you guys know what happens. Hope you guys liked these stories. I'll see you later. Until then, peace out.